Chapter 18-19. Naruto gingerly stared at the ground as an uneasy silence reigned around the members of Team Rohan. He didn't know what to do as the image of Mikasa getting stabbed by that sword kept flashing before his eyes. He could hear Kakashi call out to him and he wanted to respond but could not find it in himself to speak. He shut his eyes closed in desperation, in an effort to make the images of Mikasa's death stop. Alas, even the darkness surrounding his eyes did not help. He suddenly looked up as he felt Kakashi shake him by the shoulders and the Team Rohan's captain saw an ocean of sadness dwelling in those eyes. Even though as shinobi they were prepared to handle death, the reality always finds its way to clutch on to the cruelest path. Naruto's gaze then shifted towards Sai who just landed beside them with a young girl on his shoulder. He placed her on the ground and Naruto realized that the girl was Fu, the Nanabai Jinchuriki. The blonde could still feel her life force and was relatively content that at least she was alive. His eye widened at that thought as he turned back at once and moved towards Itachi. Considering Itachi's deteriorating health and the wound received by the Sandaime Hokage, Itachi was immensely lucky to be alive. Still, Naruto flinched a little on seeing the large stab wound on his shoulder. Closing his eyes, he calmed his breathing and allowed the nature energy to flow into himself. Naruto had never tried healing someone through Senjutsu chakra before and to him, this was still a concept. When he gathered Senjutsu chakra within himself, he balanced that amount with his own spiritual and physical energy, so none would overpower the other. So, if he focused on the yang half of the nature energy and focused it within Itachi while also balancing the nature chakra with Itachi's spiritual and physical energy, he should be able to heal Itachi in not time at all. At least, theoretically. Nature energy generally contained a lot of life force and healing properties that should do the trick. Naruto then placed the palms of his hand atop Itachi's wound as a soothing green-colored chakra surrounded his hands. A bit of sweat formed on Naruto's face as he concentrated and a few minutes later, he stopped once he noticed that the wound had healed up quite well. "How do you feel?" Naruto questioned, trying to sound as normal as he could. Itachi gradually opened his eyes to see the worried faces of Kakashi and Sai standing beside Naruto. He grazed his hand over his wound and was surprised to feel that the hole in his shoulder had been healed. He was certain he was going to die, but still sighed in relief. He turned towards the young blonde with a small smile on his face but stopped when he noticed Naruto's expression. "Where's Mikasa?" Itachi asked immediately. Upon seeing the look of despair on Kakashi's face, Itachi knew something was amiss. How did it happen? Kakashi and Naruto remained quiet, unable to recall the painful event again. "While you were down, Orochimaru was about to kill you when Usagi-senpai placed herself in front of you and got stabbed through her heart in the process." Sai gave a brief detail. Yet again, everyone fell silent. Mikasa was an excellent shinobi and more so, a wonderful person, whom Itachi was glad to have known. He would be eternally grateful to her for such an action and Itachi knew that she wouldn't want her team to fall astray without her. "Get yourself together, Naruto. This is no time to be mopping around," Itachi stated firmly, as he got up. Naruto stared at the Uchiha with shock in his eyes. She died a proud shinobi of Konoha and that too while fighting the village's enemy. But, who will remember her, Itachi? We are Umbu. Her death won't be mourned in the village. There won't be a burial for her. She fought for the village for over 2 decades in the shadows, without any fame or glory. Naruto began ranting in his anger but stopped when he heard Itachi's next words. That is what it means to be a shinobi. A true ninja is one who fights and dies in the shadows. We don't seek fame, nor do we seek attention. Our path is one filled struggles. But, we endure. We do it so that the innocents can have a life of peace. Itachi stated softly lowering his gaze to where Mikasa lay. Every day, he struggled to deal with his guilt about his clan and every day he endured it for the village. And he would continue to do so, until his last breath. Kakashi placed a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder as the blonde turned to look towards his sensei. Don't let her death be in vain. She sacrificed herself, so that Itachi may live. It's true, at one point everyone dies. But, if you mean something to someone, help someone or love someone, if even a single person remembers you, then maybe you never really die at all. Kakashi then poked Naruto, just above his heart and leaned close to his ears. She'll be right there, in your heart. Never forget what she meant to you. Kakashi whispered. Naruto nodded as tears slowly cascaded down his face and his turbulent mind became a little clam. He got up and wiped his face clean and looked up at the sky. Maybe, she was at a better place and at peace. It would still take a considerable time for him to get used to her absence, but he would try. Because, he may have done with same thing had it been him in Mikasa's place. A few minutes later, Kakashi proceeded to burn Mikasa's body as per Umbu protocols, and their team scattered to look for Senji and Shibuki. About 15 minutes later, once they had recovered the bodies, they were about to leave the place when they all heard another voice. Jin-tun, Genkai Hakuri no Jutsu. Everyone looked up to see a white light hit against the large meteor floating above and disintegrate a part of it, allowing Han and Rashi's body to fall towards the sky. The two unconscious bodies fell on the ground unceremoniously, but Naruto was certain the two would survive nonetheless. All the members of Team Rohan narrowed there when they spotted a short, old man levitate high up in the air. Tsuchikage, Kakashi stated, as he clenched his fists. They were further surprised on seeing an army of at least 100 Iwagakure shinobi now marching towards their location. Naruto glared at the man levitating in the air. The person responsible for Mikasa's death. He clenched his fists in anger, and once again he could feel the darkness rise within him, telling him to destroy the thing that caused him pain, to erase it off the face of this world. And for a mere second, the 9 tomos in his Rinnegan spun indolently as he savored in the thought of slaying them. Naruto, don't do anything stupid. We are not in a position to have a drawn-out fight, Kakashi said, guessing Naruto's intentions. Naruto nodded, keeping a blank face. But, that Tsuchikage shouldn't have come here. Wasn't the death of thousands of innocents enough? Did he have to come out himself, wishing for more death? His heart sank a little as he could truly see the world for what it was, a living hell. He looked towards his team and realized that none of them were in a position to fight, but that was not the case with him. You guys should leave, I will take care of things here, replied Naruto, surprising the others with his calmness. Don't be foolish, Naruto. All of us just got out of a big fight and we're all tired. Moreover, the Tsuchikage himself is here. The best option would be to retreat. We don't want to start an all-out war between two nations, Kakashi argued. If something happened to Naruto, he wouldn't be able to show his face in front of Minato-sensei. And he had very little doubt that Iwagakure would live to see another day, if something like that did happen. Kakashi is correct, Naruto. We have completed the mission that was assigned to us. There is no point for us stay here any longer. And you don't have to try doing everything by yourself, Itachi confessed. But their words simply fell on deaf ears as Naruto shook his head. This isn't about me. It's true none of you guys are in a state to fight, but I'm still capable of stalling the enemy long enough for all of you to get far enough. I highly doubt he'd just let us leave. And, I just need to stall them until I know you guys have entered the borders of Hai no Kuni. The Tsuchikage wouldn't willingly enter the borders of Hai no Kuni to kill us. If it was an all-out war that Tsuchikage desired, he would have sneaked into Hai no Kuni and then advanced his troops towards Konoha. Naruto reasoned logically. Well, he was being partially truthful, but the other didn't need to know the entire truth. Naruto and Kakashi stared at each other for a good minute until the white-haired Umbu sighed. We'll wait for you by the border of Hai no Kuni. Don't take too long, okay? Itachi finally said. It would be pointless to get into an argument at this point. And, Naruto did have some valid points, but on some level, he wasn't too sure if Naruto's motives were purely for the good of the village or for revenge. Whatever the case, he was certain the blonde would make it back. Kakashi and Sai nodded too, but Naruto could still sense their reluctance. To everyone's surprise, Sai stepped towards Naruto and placed his hand before him. Naruto stared at the pale-skinned boy for a moment before shaking it and then nodded to each other. They did not speak much but understood each other on a fundamental level. Without further ado, rest of Team Rohan turned around and quickly made their way out of Takigakure and towards the border. Once, Naruto felt his team's chakra signature exit the village, he glanced towards the oncoming army of IWA shinobi and the Tsuchikage who still levitated in the air. A smile appeared on his face, one that would send a cold shiver through anyone who glimpsed at it. If Iwagakure enjoyed dealing death to others so much, it would be only normal that he returned the courtesy to them. This would be his justice for Mikasa. You can't fool me, Naruto, you know what you're going to do, right? There's no coming back from this, Kurama warned within Naruto's mind. He could understand why Naruto wanted to do it alone. Even though Naruto had made his peace with the villagers viewing him as a monster, he just didn't want the people close to him to view him as such too. Because, this place would soon turn into a massacre. Even so, Kurama was a little concerned about Naruto. Having the innate ability to sense hatred in others, Kurama could clearly sense the darkness that was in Naruto's heart. He didn't wish for his friend to step into a plane from where he could not return morally. Then again, morality has always been a subjective term among the humanity. Whatever the case, he had sworn to stick by Naruto until the end and he would certainly keep his word. I know, Kurama. But this world becomes a more hellish place to live every passing day. All of this could have been avoided had the Tsuchikage chose to. Now, it's time that Tsuchikage learns the same pain the people of Takigakure went through, the same pain that I pain through. Naruto replied to his oldest friend. This world has showed him nothing but pain and misery. The death of his mother, the massacre of the Uchiha clan, Mikasa's death, he wasn't the one that was wrong, this world was what's wrong. A few minutes later, Naruto steeled his nerves as he now stood across hundreds of IWA shinobi and the Tsuchikage. His face turned blank as he sensed the hatred in the heart of all these people. All they desired for was war and the Tsuchikage was no exception. He was further disgusted when the Tsuchikage lowered himself on the ground and walked past Han and Rashi without sparing them a glance. You must have some nerves, boy. To be standing alone before us. Do you really think you can escape? Anoki asked, rather proudly. The old man was surprised when instead of a reply, he saw the young boy laugh loudly. Naruto stopped laughing shortly and spoke two words which Anoki had once heard years ago. Let's dance. Katan, Guka Mekyaku, Naruto said as he performed the horse hand seal. Converting the needed chakra inside his body into fire, Naruto breathed a large wall of fire from his mouth which covered a wide range. To the shinobi standing across, it appeared to be a literal sea of flames. Reacting quickly, several shinobi jumped in front of Anoki and performed hand seals in unison. Doton, Doryu Heki, several large mud walls suddenly rose from the ground as a protective barrier against the Katan Jutsu. But, to their surprise, the force of Jutsu was so strong that the walls seemed to be cracking slightly. Meanwhile, Anoki rose high in the air once again, to get a better look at Naruto. This will be your end, Namikaze, shouted Anoki, preparing his jutsu. Jin-tun, Genkai Hakuri no Jutsu, Anoki said ominously as his jutsu rushed towards the still-standing Naruto. To his surprise, the blonde simply raised one hand towards upward and his jutsu suddenly disappeared, followed by him getting thrown back forcefully. Naruto then pointed both his hands towards the large wall which was protecting the IWA shinobi. Focusing large amounts of chakra, a tremendous force of gravity broke through the wall, making all the IWA shinobi fly back roughly along with large pieces of rock from their own jutsu hitting them in the process. Today, you shall experience what these people here felt, Tsuchikage. Naruto said out loud, as he pointed all around himself. Picking up a random sword from the ground, Naruto adjusted his grip and ran straight towards the fallen IWA shinobi who were groaning in pain. He had every intention to slaughter them and make them feel the pain. However, he was stopped midway when Anoki landed before him. Encasing his right hand with rock, Anoki had now formed a large fist and then covered the distance to Naruto a lot faster than the normal eyes could follow. Naruto sidestepped the punch aimed at him and blocked it with his left elbow. A small scream escaped his lips upon feeling the limpness in his arm and skidded back due to the force. He was sure he heard his bone crack but kept his cool. Anoki smirked when he made a single hand seal with his other hand. Before Naruto could make a move, he was suddenly pushed down on his knees to the ground as he felt his own body get immensely heavy. He cursed as he found himself unable to move. Is he altering the force of the wind around us? No, if that was the case, he'd under the same effects as me. Then again, it's also possible that he's using the force of the air around my body to push me down. Naruto thought quickly. Once again, Anoki aimed that giant fist covered with rocks at him, knowing this time the blonde had no way to dodge. As Anoki's arm came in striking distance of Naruto's face, the blonde's entire body got engulfed in dense chakra and a silver-colored skeletal figure now surrounded Naruto. The skeletal figure was completely immersed in silver chakra and its eyes were completely black. But the terrifying part was the scythe that the figure was holding in his right hand. Susanoo, whispered Naruto. He rarely ever used his Susanoo against anyone. And he had to give credit to Anoki to force him into using it. Enraged by Naruto's maneuver, Anoki exerted more chakra into his jutsu and lunged towards Naruto, but the Susanoo did not budge at all. He suddenly found himself staring into that strange white eye of the boy and he was once again flung back through several rocks. His body finally hit the ground a few seconds later, and he was now sprouting several cuts all over his body as well as bleeding in several parts of his body. Tsuchikage-sama. You should stand back. Maybe, we can overwhelm him with numbers. Stated a shinobi beside him. Why do you fight? Why do you wish for death to befall upon the innocents? Naruto asked, as he walked towards the group, still surrounded by his Susanoo. Large number of IWA shinobi were still down after taking the hit from Naruto's previous jutsu, but some of them willed themselves to stand up beside their Kage. The people of Takigakure had done nothing against you. Konohagakure had done nothing against you. Yet, you had these people killed and are now advancing towards Hai no Kuni. Several enraged IWA shinobi jumped at Naruto, but his Susanoo swung the scythe and cut through all of them effortlessly in a single swing. It's futile to resist against me. Naruto stated with a blank face. Konoha has taken much more from Iwagakure than you can imagine. Minato Namikaze killed thousands of my shinobi mercilessly in the previous war, and before him, it was your damn grandfather, Madara Uchiha, who forced us to submit to Konoha's will. The hatred between our villages run far too deep, boy. It cannot be quenched by mere talks. This is how the shinobi world works. The strong devour the weak. Anoki sneered as he got up from the ground. To Naruto's surprise, that Tsuchikage truly believed what he was saying, which angered him further. I see. Konoha extended the offer of friendship many times after the war ended. We wanted to look past the events of the war and hope for a better world. But, every time it was you who refused to partake in it. Have you forgotten about that shinobi sent to Konoha to assassinate me years ago? I suppose in a way my grandfather was correct. Peasants like you should indeed submit to Konoha's will. Naruto replied coldly as his Susanoo developed even further, gaining an armor over the skeletal ribcage and a visor around its head which only showcased the Susanoo's glowing black eyes. What the hell is that monster? Came several shouts from among the IWA shinobi as they saw the ethereal figure around Naruto develop further. Most of them took a step back in fear and stumbled to the ground. This wasn't what they were expecting when they arrived here. Most couldn't even believe a kid could accomplish the feats they were witnessing. Anoki gained a look of defiance on his face as he quickly performed more hand seals. Doton, Gorimu no Jutsu, Anoki muttered as he created a large humanoid creature composed of the surrounding rock. The golem was about the same height as Naruto's Susanoo. Naruto raised an eyebrow in fascination of the jutsu. Anoki rode atop his golem and with a war cry lunged towards the boy. Naruto's Susanoo blocked the golem's two hands with his own and stopped it in its tracks. Anoki made another hand seal and several spiked pillars rose up from the ground aimed right at Naruto's Susanoo. To Anoki's surprise, two more hands grew from Susanoo's back carrying a scythe in each one and effortlessly cut through all the sharp pillars aimed at him. An irritated look appeared on Anoki's face as none of his attacks seemed to work on the boy. Now, let me show you my power, Tsuchikage. Naruto said as he closed his eyes. The scythe in one of the Susanoo's arms disappeared and a large ball of dense chakra started forming in it. To everyone's surprise, the sphere kept growing bigger until it was almost as big as the Susanoo. Anoki's eyes widened in horror when the Susanoo aimed the jutsu right at his shinobi and threw it. Odama Rasengan, whispered Naruto. The IWA shinobi fired several of their own jutsu in retaliation, but the large Rasengan simply kept propelling towards them. Seeing that their jutsu had no effect, most of them began running to save themselves. However, about 20 shinobi were caught in its range when the jutsu hit the ground and caused a large explosion. Anoki had to quickly jump off from his golem as Naruto suddenly jumped at him with his hands sparkling with electricity. As Naruto's hand contacted the rock golem, the electricity caused the large golem to disintegrate into dust in a matter of few seconds. Not stopping there, Naruto made another hand seal and gazed at the disarrayed IWA shinobi with his Rinnegan. Amaterasu, and this time no one was spared. All the IWA shinobi apart from the Tsuchikage was engulfed in the black flames. They cried and pleaded for the pain to stop. Some even tried Suetun Jutsu to quench the hot flames, but nothing helped. Eventually the shinobi succumbed to the intense pain and fell dead on the ground. Naruto then shifted his gaze towards the Tsuchikage, who had a look of pure terror on his face. Deciding to finish him off, Naruto began walking towards the defeated man but stopped suddenly when he heard his friend's sad voice. Stop, Naruto. This is enough. There is no point in killing any further. But... Naruto said. It's okay, Naruto. I know you're hurting. But, you must stop. Leave. Go home and rest. This isn't like you. Look around yourself. You have killed enough people. Kurama insisted, and Naruto could almost sense his friend pleading. Kurama didn't wish for his friend to fall into the darkness, and if Naruto continued what he was doing, he may very well. Naruto's hands limply fell beside him as Kurama's words hit him. He was so cloaked by his rage that he ended up doing the very thing he despised. He suddenly turned back and ran towards his team with a grief-stricken heart. He didn't know what had taken over him. All of these conflicting thoughts in his mind were driving him crazy, and he just desperately wished to lie in the comfort of his bed. As Naruto quickly made his way out of Takigakure, two men suddenly emerged out of thin air on the southwest walls of the village. One of them was a tall man with light blue-colored skin, a shark-like appearance, and a large sword wrapped in bandages strapped to his back. While the other one was slightly shorter white-haired man with red eyes. Man, that was some show, huh? That kid's powers are unreal. Who would have thought he had the same visual prowess as Leader Sama? I'm itching to have a fight with him now, stated the taller one with a mischievous glint in his eyes. As his gaze lingered at the destruction all over the village, he couldn't help but smirk at the hauntingly beautiful sight before him. Yes. This is certainly an interesting development, Kisame. Pain-sama hadn't told us about the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's abilities. Then again, having been trained under the guidance of Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Minato, I shouldn't be surprised. The Rinnegan and the Mangekyo Sharingan definitely make him a dangerous opponent to face in a battle, said the shorter person as his red eyes were firmly placed over the Sandaime Tsuchikage, who was on his knees with a defeated look on his face. Ha, I don't really care about all that. I suppose I should be glad that it was us who were tasked to hunt the Kyuubi. Based on his age right now, his strength is only bound to grow in the years to come. Anyhow, I think we should get the two Jinchurikis before the Tsuchikage gets wind of us, Hirako. Kisame replied with a chuckle. His sword, Samiha, wriggled on his back when it had felt Naruto's chakra. The boy had outrageously strong and large amounts of chakra. It excited even him. Be that as it may, we can't be too careless. We'll need to eliminate quite a few people before we get to him. And I don't think taking down Jiraiya and Minato will be as easy as you think, Hirako stated in his quiet voice. The Yondaime Hokage was currently regarded as the strongest shinobi in the world, and even their leader was weary of him, choosing to keep the Kyuubi for the end. An even more vicious smirk appeared on Kisame's face on thinking of that. The future would certainly unfold an interesting set of events. As the two cased the village from atop the walls, the two ran around to the back of the village on the northeast and jumped inside, moving closer to the two unconscious Jinchuriki. With Team Rohan, 4 miles south of Takigakure and Hai no Kuni border. Kakashi, Itachi, and Sai rested under a tree as they waited for their teammate to return. Despite being healed of his wounds, Itachi still felt extremely depleted of stamina and chakra. The others were also in the same boat as the Uchiha. About an hour had passed since the group of 3 had left Takigakure and entered into the lands of Hai no Kuni. The civil war that was waged by Yagura in Mizu no Kuni had finally ended after years of turmoil, and the resistance side that was led by a kunoichi named Meitarumi had come out on top. A news such as the death of Kage is a significant matter, and as such the other nations had learned of this within a few days after the war ended. Being the person who led the resistance group to victory, Meitarumi was unanimously chosen as the Godaime Mizukage. Even though Mizu no Kuni was underway to reconstruct the damaged parts of its land, Kirigakure had already opened the village for business with the other nations. The effect that the civil war had on the economy was on a large scale, and a lot of the major clans in Kirigakure were greatly depleted of their resources. Despite all the hindrances, Kirigakure was finally stepping out the shadow of their bloody past. The most consequential news surrounding in Konoha, however, was the chatter of a shinobi who was said to be on par with the Yondaime Hokage. The name Shiroi Shinigami was practically known by every shinobi and civilian within Konoha. Initially, it had come as a great shock to the civilian populace that the shinobi was none other than Naruto Namikaze, the son of their beloved Yondaime Hokage. Still, there was a small fraction of shinobi who feared Naruto's growing power so much that it scared them of the consequences if he ever decided to turn on the village. It wasn't out of the realms of possibilities considering his lineage. Today was an important day in the village as a new batch of genins had graduated from the Konoha Academy. The village had high expectations from this batch, especially since this was the first time in Konoha Academy's history that a batch was given an extra 2 years of training. Some of the populace even considered this batch to be the strongest one since the end of Third Shinobi War, considering the number of clan heirs that were there. A surprise addition to this batch was Fu, who was now integrated into the village as a Konoha shinobi. However, unlike in Naruto's case, her status as the Nanabai Jinchuriki was kept tight-lipped. Hinata, Sasuke and Sakura were currently making their way towards training ground 7 from the academy, where they were asked to meet their sensei. Over the course of years, the three of them grown tremendously in strength along with their looks. Hinata had grown her hair to waist length and wore her Konoha headband across her forehead. Her attire consisted of light lavender, sleeveless kimono-style blouse with vertical lines, tied with a dark purple obi around her waist. She also wore a pair of short dark navy shorts with thigh-high stockings along with regular ninja sandals. Overall, her attire was noticeably more form-fitting and less conservative than what she wore during the academy. With all the taijutsu training she was put through, she had also grown to a good height of 5 feet and 4 inches. Unlike Hinata, Sakura had chosen to keep her hair short and kept it neck length. She looked considerably fitter than before, and some may even say among the most beautiful girls in Konoha, judging by her well-proportioned figure. She wore a sleeveless red qipao dress that reached her upper thighs, with white trimmings and a white circular design on the back along with a black obi around her waist, similar to the Hyuga heiress. Her attire also consisted of black shorts underneath the dress along with gray elbow and knee protectors. She also wore regular shinobi sandals and had grown to a height of 5 feet and 3 inches. However, the one who had changed the most was Sasuke Uchiha. Considered by most kunoichis as one of the most good-looking man, Sasuke had grown to a good height of 5 feet and 6 inches. Sasuke now wore a black high-collared shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol at the back along with simple light blue pants. He had bandages wrapped around his ankles and wore his shinobi headband over his forehead. Sasuke's hair had also grown longer as the left side of his face was partly covered by his bangs. He also carried a katana with him, in a black sheath, as he had started investing himself in kenjutsu, about 3 years ago. This is so exciting. We're finally shinobi. Sakura squealed lightly, showing her excitement. Only genins though. Sasuke commented idly. Still, he wouldn't say that he was any less excited than his pink-haired teammate. He wanted to surpass his brother as a shinobi, and even him that he had grown considerably strong over the course of years, but still hadn't been able to mature his Sharingan fully. For him to accomplish his goals, he had to get even stronger. And for that matter, he was willing to do anything possible. Sasuke-kun, give her some rest. The 6 long years of academy are finally over. We can go on real missions now, instead of the D ranks we were made to do during the 6th year. Hinata chipped in. She had a slight idea as to who their sensei would be, considering they had 2 Jujutsu users in Team 7. Then again, she could never be too sure. Anyhow, she couldn't wait to start doing missions. Maybe then Hugh will take notice of her. Her anger towards Naruto had subsided a lot in the last couple of years. Ever since she heard the news of his feats in the Battle of Takigakure, she had been shocked yet more sad about it. It had been ages since she had laid eyes on him. She didn't even know how he looked now. As the three finally reached training ground 7, they found a silver-haired man to be sitting under the shade of a tree with a book in his hands. But, Hinata also noticed the long strands of blonde hair that was partially covered by the taller person's body. Sasuke and Sakura were yet to notice the smaller guy as he was barely visible from their position. It couldn't be. Hinata whispered with a startled look on her face. She could feel her heart flutter as she unknowingly moved quicker. And unseen by Sasuke or Sakura, her eyes became slightly moist when her gaze fell upon his serene sleeping form. On seeing Hinata's expression and her brisk walk towards them, Kakashi stood up from the ground to stand beside Naruto. He had decided against waking the blonde, so he could see his friend's reaction. After all, it had been almost 5 years since Naruto had met anyone from his class. Kakashi was sure everyone would be glad upon seeing him again. Hinata. What's wrong? Asked Sakura as she saw her move towards their sensei quickly. Following after her, even Sakura quickened her pace but stopped abruptly beside her with a look of disbelief etched on her face. Sasuke, however, walked at a relaxed pace, not concerning himself with his teammates' antics. But his interest had slightly piqued on noticing the still form of Sakura and Hinata. Naruto, yelled Sakura in surprise. Kakashi had to almost cover his ears at the loudness of her voice but did not voice his thoughts. Naruto shot his eyes open on hearing the familiar voice and immediately got up from the ground. A silly look appeared on his face and he scratched the back of his head as he realized he had dozed off. It wasn't his fault, it wasn't even 7 in the morning yet. As he looked around, his eyes widened slightly on seeing Sakura and her. How long had it been, he wondered. He took a step towards them but stopped when he heard Sakura speak again. Is that really you, Naruto? This time Sakura asked quietly, unable to believe her eyes. Hi, it's me, Sakura. He replied with a small smile. Sakura blushed a little on seeing how much Naruto had changed. His body had become completely lean and she could clearly see his defined muscles across his chest and arms. Naruto had lost most of his baby fat and looked physically strong. He had also grown to a height of 5 feet and 7 inches. He wore a black high-collared long-sleeve shirt with the Uchiha clan crest at back, black pants with bandages wrapped around his ankles, standard shinobi sandals, black gloves over his hands and a jounin flak jacket. He had also let his hair grow over the years and it was now waist-length with shoulder-length bangs framing the sides of his face and covering most of his right eye. She suddenly came out of her daze when she saw the blonde wave in front of her face. Sakura. You good? You dozed off for a few seconds. Naruto said with a chuckle. She jokingly slapped him across the shoulder all the while sporting a huge smile on her face. Today was one of the best days of her life up till now. So, are you jounin now? Sasuke asked casually. He wasn't all that surprised to see the blonde. Naruto had been spending quite a lot of time back at home now the past few weeks, although Sasuke wasn't aware of anything else. Yeah, I left the Umbu a few weeks ago. I'm now an official jounin of Konohagakure. And, I will also be a part of Team 7 from now on. I didn't really want to lead a genin team and Hokage-sama thought this would be the best course of action. Naruto replied calmly. He was glad that Sasuke seemed to be a lot calmer than before and more powerful too, judging by how strong his chakra seemed. Lastly, he glanced towards Hinata who had remained quiet up to this point. He hesitated to move towards her, not really sure how she would react. He hadn't really parted with her on good terms. He felt saddened on seeing her moist eyes. He certainly did not deserve those tears from someone like her. Everyone kept their eyes on the blonde as he slowly moved towards Hinata. She averted her gaze as he now stood before her. There were so many emotions coursing through her heart and she felt conflicted on what to say to him. Would their relation be the same after so much time? Would they be able to talk to each other normally? What if he did not care about her anymore? She shut her eyes as such questions kept recurring in her mind. Unknown to her, similar waves of questions were also flowing through Naruto's minds. Her heart raced faster, as she felt him place his palm on her cheek. I'm such a jerk, aren't I? Naruto whispered. Tears flowed down her face as she felt the warmth of his touch. She had forgotten how much she missed it. Without any further thoughts, she hugged him tightly and held him, afraid that this was all a dream. Afraid that she may wake up any second in her room, to find him disappear from her sights. Kakashi and Sakura smiled at the scene before their eyes. Both knew how much Naruto and Hinata had missed each other. I missed you, Hinata-chan, and I'm really sorry for how I left things. Naruto said quietly as he too placed her arms across her back and held her close. Naruto's body was imbued with a wave of euphoria on having her so close to him yet saddened by the emotions he was sensing from Hinata. A few minutes passed and the two stayed in each other's embrace, enjoying the feeling. Naruto then placed his hands on her shoulders and pushed her a little back, so he could stare into those beautiful eyes of hers. Hinata, asked Naruto. She still hadn't uttered a single word. He was surprised when she suddenly slapped him across his face and it was then that he could see the sadness in her eyes. And he hated himself for it. You idiot. Why would you just leave like that? Why didn't you tell me? Hinata yelled, regaining a bit of composure. He lowered his gaze, knowing fully well that he deserved it. I was afraid. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to go through with my decision had I told you beforehand. Replied Naruto, still unable to meet her gaze. She hit him on his arms and pushed him by his chest as all the hurt and frustration suddenly came rushing into her mind. Naruto simply kept quiet and took it all. He knew, his decision in the past may appear to be cruel to most, but Naruto was also aware that because of it, Hinata had grown strong, both mentally and physically. The next second, he was greatly surprised when he felt her hug him again. Promise me that you'll never do such a thing again. I don't care how strong you've become, I will kill you myself if you ever hurt me like that again. Hinata whispered in between her sobs. Naruto gently placed his hand on her head and caressed her hair as a small smile appeared on his face. That's a promise. And you know, I never go back on my word. Naruto chuckled softly. I still hate you, retorted Hinata. I know. I know. Naruto replied as he understood the underlying meaning of her words. Ugh, how long are they going to stay like that? Sasuke commented as he was smacked behind his head, courtesy of Sakura. Would you just relax a little? Give them some time. Sakura scolded him. Sasuke glared at her for a second before turning his head away with a scoff. Sakura was extremely glad on seeing Naruto and Hinata together after so long. She'd be lying if she still didn't care about the blonde, but she knew those two had something special. And she wasn't going to get in the middle of it. Still standing under the tree, a perverse chuckle left Kakashi's lips as he wondered if he should recall this event to Jiraiya. It had been quite some time since any books were published by the Toad Sage, and the man would definitely want to have a new source of information. About 10 minutes later, once Naruto and Hinata had spoken to each other for a bit, the newly graduated genins now stood in front of Kakashi, while Naruto stood beside the Jounin sensei with his arms folded across his chest. Well, that was certainly interesting. Kakashi spoke out loud, unable to control a small laugh. However, he stopped when he felt both Naruto's and Hinata's glare at him. Anyway, my name is Kakashi Hataki and I'll be the Jounin sensei of Team 7. And Naruto here, while not a sensei, will also be part of this team. He will not be acting as a sensei per se, but he'll help out with team training and our missions too. Kakashi stated, turning a little serious. Now, our first meeting would have gone a lot differently had you guys graduated like the other batches of genins. All of you were divided into teams 2 years ago and are familiar with each other. But, before we start taking missions as a team, I do want to test out each of your strengths. Any questions? Sakura opened her mouth to say something, but hesitated. Sasuke glanced towards the girl and knew exactly what she wanted to ask. He'd be lying if he didn't ponder about it earlier too. Practically everyone in the village talked about it. Did you really defeat the Tsuchikage and kill over 100 shinobi from Iwagakure 2 years ago? Sasuke questioned bluntly, turning his gaze towards the young Jounin. A little surprised by the question, but Naruto wasn't really bothered by it. He may have felt a tad bit of grief for a short time earlier, but also realized his actions had most likely stopped the Tsuchikage from casually advancing towards Konoha. But, even after all this time, he couldn't find it in himself to forgive the Tsuchikage completely for Mikasa's death or destroying Takigakure. That's correct, Sasuke. I did what any Konoha shinobi would do. I have sworn to protect Konoha against all enemies. I'll take whatever measures necessary to see that the village survives. It doesn't matter if there are 100 or 1,000 shinobi standing before me. I'll kill them all if it means protecting the village. Naruto replied in an unwavering voice. Hinata and Sakura were a little unnerved on hearing this. They knew Naruto had always been different and wasn't entirely against killing people, especially the enemies, but he did have a warm and forgiving look. Yet, looking into his eyes now, they appeared to be completely devoid of any mercy or emotion. Sasuke nodded on hearing the answer. He expected such a reply from Naruto. He still hadn't forgotten that night where Naruto had told him to use his hatred against the village's enemy, to hate Danzo until he became strong enough to kill the man responsible for the Uchiha's massacre. Deciding to break the ice, Kakashi cleared his throat to gain the genin's attention. He took out 2 bells from his pouch strapped to his left leg and showed it to the people. Naruto chuckled, knowing exactly what his former sensei was going to do. Oh, this ought to be fun to watch, thought an amused Naruto. The 3 of you, Kakashi said, pointing towards Sasuke, Hinata, and Sakura, will be fighting against me. Your objective will be to take these 2 bells from me. You can use any of the shinobi arts in this battle. The fight ends the moment one of you manages to take this from me. Now, remember, you all better come at me with the intention to kill. Show me how much you all have grown as shinobi. Kakashi stated. He jumped to the middle of the clearing to give himself more room. The 3 genins stood in their places for a few seconds when they heard Kakashi's voice. Well, don't wait for me to say start, he said with a dumb look on his face. What about him? Sasuke asked, pointing towards the blonde. Oh, I won't be doing anything. I will just observe, I suppose. Naruto said, as he jumped up and sat on one of the tree branches to have a better view. Hinata, Sakura and Sasuke immediately disappeared into the woods surrounding the training ground to come up with an effective approach for their objective. A little over 10 minutes had passed and it was Sasuke who showed himself before Kakashi. Oh. Your teammates won't be joining you, asked Kakashi, without even lifting his gaze from the book he had taken out. You don't need to worry about them, Sasuke replied. His eyes soon turned red as he ran towards Kakashi at an impressive speed. As soon as Sasuke reached Kakashi within an arm's length, he took out his katana with his right hand and went for a backhand slash, aiming for Kakashi's torso. Kakashi easily sidestepped the attempt and went for a kick to Sasuke's ribs. Having predicted the move, Sasuke swiftly ducked down and this time, aimed his katana towards Kakashi's sternum. With quick reflexes, Kakashi backflipped and threw several shuriken towards Sasuke, who deflected all the shurikens with ease. Not giving Kakashi any time to make the next move, Sasuke launched himself towards his sensei as he coated his katana with Raiton chakra. Kakashi's eyes widened slightly as he quickly took out a kunai, also coating it with Raiton chakra and blocked Sasuke's sword. There's no need to be surprised. Raiton manipulation is one of my expertise, Kakashi stated on seeing the momentary shock on Sasuke's face. However, Sasuke simply smirked and immediately jumped back, startling his sensei for a second. Raiton, Reikukausen no Jutsu, Kakashi heard Hinata's voice from behind as a beam of high-voltage electricity came towards him. Before the jutsu could reach him, Kakashi jumped up in the air, but the very next second his ears picked up Sasuke's voice as he quickly turned towards him. Katon, Gokakyu no Jutsu, Sasuke said, blowing a large ball of fire towards Kakashi, who was still in midair. Seeing the danger he was in, Kakashi promptly substituted himself with a log of wood and landed a little further away from the clearing in the middle. These guys aren't half bad. They have certainly improved more than I expected. Now where could Sakura be? Kakashi wondered as he looked around. Unknown to the silver-haired Jounin, Sakura stood about 20 feet to his west and had a clear view of him. Making a few hand seals, she casted a genjutsu around the area that would prevent Kakashi from seeing her. Once done, she quietly made her way towards her sensei and jumped to the tree branch behind him. As her hand reached out to grab the bells from him, Kakashi suddenly turned around and before Sakura could react, he kicked her on her left arm. Sakura was barely able to block the kick but still found herself being thrown away due to the strength behind it. Quickly turning her body midair, she used a tree behind her as a support and jumped to the clearing in the middle. Hinata and Sasuke raced towards the pink-haired girl, who was now sporting a light bruise on her left arm. Did it work? Hinata questioned. No, I don't know how he was able to get out of the genjutsu so easily. I was sure he'd be distracted for a few minutes at least. I suppose, he's a lot stronger than he looks. Sakura replied, of course, something like that wouldn't work on him. They all heard Naruto's voice and turned to their right. What do you mean? Sasuke asked with a raised eyebrow. What I mean is that, Kakashi is one of the strongest Jounins in the village. There are only a handful of people in the village who could defeat him in a one-on-one fight to the death. So, I just say you'll have to try harder. Naruto chuckled. The three genins were obviously startled on hearing that fact. But, before they could do anything further, Kakashi once again landed in the middle of the clearing with a bored look on his face. That was certainly good. Distracting me with taijutsu and kenjutsu first and then following it up with ninjutsu and genjutsu. It was a certainly good tactic, Kakashi said with a thumbs up. But Sasuke, Hinata, and Sakura could clearly sense the sarcasm behind his words. Sasuke inwardly cursed himself for not even making Kakashi take them seriously. He immediately covered his hand in Raiton chakra and rushed towards him. Kakashi simply stood his ground and stared at the Uchiha coming towards him with his lone eye. He never learns, he thought with a sigh. As Sasuke neared him, he thrusted his arm towards the Jounin but Kakashi casually caught his wrist and directed the hand away from him. However, he was surprised, when Sasuke immediately jumped down and swept his legs causing him to fall on the ground. Sasuke then held his hands, to stop him from performing any hand seals. Sakura and Hinata then quickly performed a few hand seals to execute their jutsu while Sasuke still held him in place. Meanwhile, Kakashi played along with them wanting to see what else the three were capable of. He could very well get out of Sasuke's grip but seeing the three genins work together so well, made him to want to take things slightly easy. Suiton, Suigaden, Sakura said making the water from a nearby lake to rise which took the form of a spinning drill that proceeded towards Kakashi. A split second before the jutsu could reach, Sasuke immediately jumped out of the way. The Suiton jutsu then proceeded to hit Kakashi, who was swept back a few feet. Raiton, Jibarashi, Hinata called out as she placed her hands on the ground. Utilizing the water that covered the area, Hinata unleashed an electric current that traveled through the water towards Kakashi, shocking him greatly. Kakashi abruptly fell on his knees as his body acted up in pain. Hinata, Sasuke and Sakura then jumped in front of Kakashi who was still on his knees with victorious smirks on their faces. I guess I should congratulate you all, said Kakashi tiredly in between breaths. Sasuke then moved towards the downed Jounin to get the bells, completely oblivious to the smirk hidden under Kakashi's face mask. Before the three genins could even move a muscle any further, the Kakashi before them dispersed into a current of electricity that shocked all three of them. A few seconds later, the three then fell on the ground, groaning in pain. Moments later, they all heard the sound of clapping and turned towards the direction of the sound. Looks like you overdid it a little, sensei, Naruto said with a laugh. Kakashi nodded, but he was extremely impressed with the all three of them. He was certain Team 7 would go on to make an excellent team in the future. About 10 minutes later, the three genins finally got up from the ground with slightly saddened mood. When did you make that clone? Hinata asked keenly. She was surprised that even with the three of them working together weren't able to scratch him, much less get the bells from him. I surely thought we'd able to get the bells from you, sensei, Sakura said as she lowered her gaze down. Sasuke kept quiet, surprised that even years of training, he wasn't able to amount to much. He felt angry at himself, but most importantly cursed his own weakness. He wondered where he could have gone wrong. Why wasn't he at least able to put up a decent fight? All three of them brought out of their internal conflicts when they heard Kakashi's voice, which sounded rather happy. To answer your question, Hinata, I switched myself with the clone just before Sakura's jutsu was about to hit me. But more importantly, you guys performed splendidly. I am thoroughly surprised with how much the three of you have improved, Kakashi stated with a nice smile. But we weren't able to get the bell, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura spoke. You were never going to get the bell first of all. If you recall, I did say I was just going to test everyone's strengths and weaknesses. I'm an experienced Jounin while the three of you are fresh genins. Although, I'm pretty sure all three of you will be able to handle yourself against most of the Chunins for that matter, Kakashi said in an effort to lift up their moods. That certainly made Hinata and Sakura feel a lot better. While Sasuke was content with Kakashi's remarks, he glanced towards Naruto and wondered just how strong he really was. He had heard about his exploits, but hearing the news from a third person's view was never the same. Well, since that's cleared up, we can come up with a training schedule for the three of you and discuss how each person performed. From there on, you all can work on your weaknesses to improve upon them, Kakashi said. He proceeded to make 3 clones of himself, and each clone took a genin to a different part of the woods surrounding the training ground. 2 weeks later. It was a bright, sunny morning in Konoha, and Team 7 had finally received a day off from training, much to their relief. Unlike the academy, training under Kakashi had turned out to be a constant struggle, and by the end of each day they would either limp back home or pass out in the training ground from exhaustion. One of the key concepts that Kakashi had emphasized to them was efficiency and teamwork. To be able to complete an objective with a clear mind, in the given amount of time, and to be able to look a mission objectively rather than emotionally. Sasuke, Hinata, and Sakura were pleasantly surprised at the vast difference in the teaching methods of Kakashi compared to the academy teachers. While true that most of the current Jounin sensei also taught at the academy for a short period, but during that time, they only grazed the tip of the field the students wanted to specialize in. Since Sakura had shown signs of excellent chakra control since a young age, she had opted to go for the medical field later on, in her shinobi career. Ever since she could remember, she had idolized Tsunade Senju, who was regarded as the greatest medical practitioner and the strongest kunoichi in the shinobi world. In the academy, she was taught the most basics of medical ninjutsu along with slightly advanced chakra control exercises than the rest of the students. With Kakashi, she was trained to improve upon her stamina, chakra reserves, and advanced chakra control exercises. Since she had Suiton and Doton nature affinities, one of the chakra control exercises she was currently working on was to separate different grains of sand within a small puddle, without disturbing the flow of water. Being a kunoichi from the Hyuga clan, Hinata had an innate sense of chakra control. While almost as good as Sakura's, she wasn't much interested in the medical field. Her interest lied in mid to close-range battles. At the young age of 14, Hinata was considered among the best taijutsu users of the Hyuga clan. Even though her taijutsu style, Gentle Fist, was extremely efficient in conjugation with her Byakugan, Kakashi had noticed some of her movements to be stiff, especially when turning her body. She mainly worked on her fluidity of movements, improving the range of her Byakugan and also working on her ninjutsu. The Hyuga clan prided themselves in their taijutsu and considered themselves to be a cut above the others, and thus it was very rare to see a Hyuga use ninjutsu. So, Kakashi was caught a little off guard to see her work on ninjutsu. However, when it came to Sasuke, Kakashi devoted a good amount of time behind him. Like him, Kakashi too had lost almost everyone he cared about at a young age and could see a reflection of himself within Sasuke. Since he also had the Sharingan, he felt a tad bit more comfortable in teaching Sasuke than Hinata and Sakura. Although, it's not to say that he didn't tend to their needs. Under Kakashi's guidance, Sasuke worked on his Sharingan and further improving his stamina and speed. In his early years in the Umbu, since Kakashi used to wield a Chikudo, he was also able to help Sasuke with Kenjutsu in regard to improving his stance and swiftness of his strikes. Similar to the blonde Uchiha, Kakashi had noticed that Sasuke too could be considered a prodigy. The immense potential that the child had was simply terrifying. That alone made him wonder whether everyone within the Uchiha clan was born with innate talents in the shinobi arts. Why do you make me work so hard with them? It's honestly tiring. Kakashi said quite tiredly. It's good for you, sensei. If I didn't force you to teach them properly, you probably would have left them to fend for themselves. Naruto replied with an equally tired face. The two were just getting out of the Hokage's building after finishing up on some paperwork for the Chunin exams in a few months. It had been a while since any of them had to deal with any sort of paperwork, and one could say how irked they were by the looks on their faces. Well, you turned out to be good, didn't you? And, I mean, you could help out at times too instead of just lying around at the training ground. Replied Kakashi as he yawned. I know why Minato-sensei hates paperwork so much. It truly is a bane of existence. Maybe, I was just an exception. Moreover, someone needs to keep an eye on you. You're like the laziest person I know of. You could probably even compete with the Nara clan in that regard. Naruto stated with a smirk and had to control himself from outright laughing. Kakashi's eye twitched at that remark, but he didn't have the energy to neither yell nor hit the blonde. Smartass. Kakashi muttered under his breath. Naruto chuckled at Kakashi's expression and decided not to probe the man any further. Well, anyway, I think I'm going to go and get some rest. Being a jounin is hard. I wish I was still in Umbu. I would take going on risky missions any time over this damn paperwork. Scoffed Naruto. Kakashi then took out his small book from his pouch as he waved goodbye to Naruto, who took to the rooftops. Kakashi walked aimlessly for a few minutes through the market district when he heard a voice that sent chills down his spine. Kakashi. Why so tired? We both are still in the springtime of our youth. I shall challenge you to a fight to brighten your youthful fire, yelled a man clad in green spandex. Why did it have to be him now? Kakashi cried inwardly. Naruto quickly raced through the rooftops and made his way to the south of the Hokage monument, outside the Hyuga clan's main house compound. He smiled when he found Hinata to be waiting there. Even to this day, he was always found himself mesmerized upon looking at her. And he would be lying to himself if he didn't think that Hinata had grown to be quite hot over the years. That thought alone made him blush a little, but he kept himself composed. No silly thoughts, stupid Naruto. He repeated in his mind. Jumping off the branch of a tree, he landed before Hinata. Once again, he found himself staring at her for a few seconds before he realized that she was looking at him with a mischievous smirk. Like what you see, Naruto-kun, she said with a wink. Since it was her day off, Hinata was wearing knee-length violet skirt and a simple white-colored top with a v-neck. Naruto was slightly taken aback with her attitude and shook his head to rid himself of any dirty thoughts. I guess. Naruto replied hesitantly as he tilted his head to the side slightly. Hinata giggled on seeing Naruto's reactions. It made her smile inwardly that she could bring out such a reaction from him. So, why did you want to meet now? I'm quite tired, you know. Naruto said. Well, it doesn't matter. You were gone for so many years without ever telling me anything. And today's the first time we got any free time after you came. So, today you'll be spending the day with me. Hinata replied cheerfully. Hey, come on. I'm really tired, you know. And how many times do I have to apologize? Naruto whined. He even pointed towards his eyes so Hinata could see the dark circles under them to prove that he needed his sleep. It doesn't matter. Those 5 years are not going to come back. And you have to make up for it by doing what I say. Hinata firmly replied. Naruto sighed with a defeated look on his face and just nodded. There was no point in arguing with her. He had forgotten how stubborn she could get at times. So, where do you want to go? Naruto asked her as they began walking away from the Hyuga compound. Let's see. Hinata hummed in thought as she glanced towards his tired face. Let's go and sit on the Hokage monument. It's your favorite place, isn't it? She asked. A large smile appeared on Naruto's face as he nodded. He immediately placed his arm around her waist, surprising her, and used Shunshin no Jutsu to teleport on top of the Hokage's monument. The next second Hinata opened her eyes, she found herself standing atop the stone faces of the Hokages. She tucked her hair behind her ears gently, as she felt the wind blow past her. Naruto and Hinata walked to the edge of the hill and sat down next to each other with their feet hanging from the cliff. To a civilian, the edge of the cliff would seem to be a daunting place to sit because of the height. But, Naruto and Hinata were trained shinobi and they simply admired the view before their eyes. The two became quiet for a few minutes as they enjoyed each other's silent company. Hinata continued staring down at the village while Naruto kept stealing glances at her. He couldn't really tell why, but he felt a little nervous. His heart raced a little when he felt Hinata's hand move atop his own, beside him. And for some reason, it also made him feel calmer. I was really mad at you when you left. Hinata whispered, but Naruto clearly heard her as he quickly turned towards her. He opened his mouth to speak but stopped when he saw Hinata's expression. You suddenly disappeared after that night and I was so worried and scared about you. I had so many questions. I even tried asking Tsu-sama, Hokage-sama and Mikoto-sama, but no one gave me any answers. Hinata continued as she stared into the empty space below her feet. With every passing second, Naruto hated himself even more. He wanted his friends to become stronger in his absence, to be able to rely on their own powers to protect the village. But he'd forgotten to account their feelings into his decision. I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. I wasn't thinking clearly at that point. But I only wanted the best for everyone. Naruto said with a heavy heart. He lowered his gaze to his palms and wondered if he had ever done anything right in his life. His life had begun as a tragedy and it had followed him all his life up to this point. Hinata placed a comforting hand on his cheek as he felt his distress. It's true that she had been devastated when he decided to leave, but right now, maybe she understood his reasons a little. You always try doing everything on your own, Naruto-kun. I want you to know that you're not alone in this world. You have friends you can rely on. We may not be as strong as you are, but we want to support you. We may not have suffered as much pain as you have, but we all want to share your burden. Hinata whispered softly. Tears formed in Naruto's eyes and slowly fell on his blood-stained hands as he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Ever since the day he had learned of his destined prophecy from Kurama, he believed all the responsibility to be on his shoulders. He himself had clouded his mind and heart with pain that he could have shared with his friends. Hinata gently guided Naruto to rest his face on her lap as he grazed her fingers through his long blonde hair. I have killed so many people. I have taken hundreds of innocent lives. I don't think I can forgive myself. Naruto sobbed and let it all out. For so many years, he had kept his heart a closed fortress, keeping all the pain locked up in there. Shoo, it's okay. Remember when we were kids and I told you that I want to understand you better? Hinata asked as she stared at the vast village before her eyes. She continued stroking his hair gently, knowing that Naruto was enjoying her touch. Naruto meekly nodded. He hadn't forgotten a single memory he had spent with her before joining the Umbu. Earlier, whenever I believed that I understood you a little, you presented me with another mystery in your life and it always scared me a little though I never showed it. But, both of us have grown a lot since that time. Right at this moment, I believe you're still lost in your own pain. Everyone has suffered some sort of pain in their life, Naruto-kun, and everyone has a bit of darkness in them. I can't say I understand your pain completely now, but I'll ask you again. Let me try to understand you, Naruto-kun. You don't ever have to walk your path alone. I want to stand by your side and hold your hand. Hinata said soothingly. I'm afraid of myself, Hinata-chan. I'm afraid of my own powers. I'm afraid that once I get consumed by the darkness in myself, I won't be able to redeem myself. Naruto murmured tiredly. He closed his eyes momentarily, soaking himself in the warmth he was feeling from her. Then, I'll always be there by your side, pull you away from it. I promise. As he laid his head on her lap, he realized Hinata to be the key to his fortress. Being close to her made him feel as if all his painful memories were being slowly burnt away by the bright rays of the sun. She was his son and he loved. I love you, Hinata. Naruto whispered as he soon dozed off into a blissful sleep. Hinata suddenly froze for a few seconds as she heard those words. Yet, again she found herself shaking lightly. How long had she yearned to hear those words from him? How long had she yearned to tell those words to him? She couldn't remember, but she smiled knowing that it didn't really matter anymore. She lowered herself and kissed him on his forehead and whispered into ears softly, "I love you too, Naruto-kun." A couple of hours had passed and the two were still sitting by the edge of the Hokage monument. Naruto stirred in his sleep and slowly opened his eyes to find himself sleeping on Hinata's lap. He suddenly got up and looked around himself worriedly. Was it all a dream, he thought. He looked towards Hinata and staring into her warm eyes, he had found his answer. His eyes suddenly widened as he remembered everything he had said earlier and everything she had said. "Did you sleep well?" Hinata asked as she moved a little closer to him. She was surprised when Naruto immediately engulfed her in a tight hug. She simply smiled and hugged him back with an equal vigor. "That was the best sleep I've ever had, Hinata-chan." Naruto broke the hug and now looked straight in her white eyes. "And thank you for still believing in me," Naruto said. Hinata giggled lightly much to Naruto's confusion, but the next second, Hinata inched forward and poked Naruto on his forehead. Naruto stared at her a few moments and laughed freely. The kind of innocent laugh a baby has when he gets his hands on his favorite toy. Hinata was yet again mesmerized by Naruto. He looked so free and relieved now, and she wanted to protect this smile of his, forever. A few minutes later, when Naruto calmed down, he placed his hand on his stomach and realized he hadn't eaten anything last night. "Do you want to go grab a bite?" Naruto asked. "So, is it a date?" Hinata questioned with a small smirk. I don't know about that." Naruto put his hand under his chin and pretended to ponder over it for a few seconds that made Hinata slightly frown. "Hey, I was just kidding. Come on, now," Naruto said frantically. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.